Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Donald Trump is certainly one of the most famous real estate moguls. He's built an empire and a brand with his name. In 1982, Trump made the Forbes 400 list for the very first time with a net worth of $200 million, although he claims it was $500 million. From that point on, Trump went on to invest in some of his biggest real estate deals, including the Trump Tower and the Grand Hyatt. At that same time, the US stock market started an epic bull run. In this video, we're going to figure out if Trump would have been richer today had he invested in the stock market instead of continuing his real estate deals with all the effort that entailed, including the legal battles and large amounts of debt. First, we will look at Trump's current net worth and his place on the Forbes 400 list. Secondly, we will look at what his net worth would have been had he invested all $200 million into the US stock market. Then we will look at what it would have been if he had lived off this portfolio the entire time. Finally, we'll look at what his net worth would have been if he had the $500 million he claimed in 1982 and invested this into the US stock market. Please like and subscribe. I appreciate it. My name's Nate. I'm an engineer and investor. Now let's get into the video. Okay, so Trump's net worth, according to Forbes, currently, real time, is $6.9 billion, which makes him number 552 in the world today. You can see his net worth history right here. His recent spike in net worth was due primarily to his crypto ventures. In 2024, his net worth was $2.3 billion. Still not bad. Okay, now we're going to look at Portfolio Visualizer. We're going to look at a US large cap stock portfolio, which is essentially the S&P 500. We're going to go to settings here. We're going to start in 1982, finish today. We are going to put in $200 million if we would have invested that in 1982. And let's analyze that. So remember, his net worth is currently $6.9 billion. If he had invested in the US stock market, his net worth would be $29 billion and change, a lot of change. Truly staggering. And this is, remember, this is doing nothing. This is literally putting your money in an index fund and watching it grow. So I know one caveat here is he lived off, whatever money he was making. So let's edit that to see what would have happened if he had lived off this portfolio. So we're going to go here to settings. For cash flow, we're going to say we're going to withdraw a fixed percentage. So I'm putting in here a low percentage, 1.5%, which is lower than someone would normally withdraw. But when you have $200 million, that's a starting salary, if you will, of $3 million a year in 1982. So I think that's sufficient. So let's analyze this. So if you withdrew starting with $3 million a year to live off this portfolio, you would have still ended up with $15.5 billion by doing nothing. So let's look here. This shows you the portfolio growth. So starting at $200 million in 1982, and you can see even withdrawing the 1.5%, I mean, it just continues to grow, right? So now we're going to look at what the income would have been that he would be withdrawing. So of course, it starts in year one with $3 million. And you can see it continues to climb, right? As the stock market goes up, let's see, 1989, he's collecting $10 million a year. 99, $47 million a year. And we had the dot-com bubble. Today, he would be collecting $200 million a year from this portfolio, which, if you remember, was the initial investment amount. So truly staggering, living off this portfolio, and you still end up with $15 billion. Okay, now let's look at this and see if he really had $500 million. Let's start with that and see what that would have returned. So instead of $200 million in 1982, we're going to start with $500 million. No cash flows for now. Let's analyze that. So $500 million invested in the stock market would have returned $74 billion doing nothing. All right, now let's see if he was living off that portfolio, how that would change. So let's look at cash flows. Let's withdraw a fixed percentage, 1.5%, starting in 1982. So if he's withdrawing and living off this portfolio, your $500 million, you still have almost $39 billion today. Now let's look at that income. So annual withdrawals, of course, back then, starting around 9 million. 99, you're collecting $117 million from this portfolio. Today, wow, you would be collecting $501 million a year, $500 million a year, living off this portfolio, and your net worth is at $39 billion. Not bad at all. To be fair, this is an interesting way to look at investing, but for Trump to actually have done this, he would have had to sell his entire real estate portfolio and probably pay some substantial taxes. That being said, even if Trump had $100 million left over after taxes and followed this same investment strategy in the stock market, he'd still end up with almost $15 billion. This just illustrates the power of compounding returns in the stock market. One thing you can't do investing in index funds, though, is build a brand with your name. But on the flip side, if you had made all that money passively, you'd have all the time in the world to pursue ventures and build a brand on the side. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. I would really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching. And if you'd like to know how to turn $10,000 into $3.5 million, just click here.